One of the stories from earlier this week, we kind of covered a little bit on headlines on Tuesday, but we didn't really get into the nitty-gritty. Giannis Antetokounmpo's interview with Tanya Ganguly of the New York Times, in which he kind of issued an ultimatum for the Milwaukee Bucks, saying, I'm not going to sign an extension if I don't feel like we're all doing what we need to be doing. I'm paraphrasing.
He said he's not going to sign until next year. He said it doesn't make sense for him to sign now. Is that true regardless of whether he feels that Milwaukee is competing for a championship? I guess the machinations of how contracts work, sometimes I'm like, I don't fully understand what's best for the player here. So what's going to be in Giannis's best interest overall? Okay,
so there's two conversations happening. One is his basketball success legacy building conversation. One is a financial conversation. So let me start with the financial conversation because that's a lot more cut and dry. He's eligible to sign a 3-year extension in about 30 days. He'll hit the mark where he's eligible to sign that extension. The number is north of $170 million over 3 years. It's a lot of money, obviously. And so the question is, if Giannis were to sign this 3-year extension, which would tack on to the end of his deal, versus playing out his contract and signing a new 3-year deal with a different team. What is that financial difference? And the reality is, because the max is based on a percentage of the cap, and the cap keeps rising, we're talking about probably about a $12 to $15 million difference over the total lifespan of the 3 years of signing that extension now versus waiting to the end of his contract and signing a new deal with a new team with smaller raises. It's not that big of a gap in the money. And as a result, for Giannis, it's like, okay, it's more money to stay, but is it enough money to say unequivocally I'm going to stay, particularly for someone who at this point has made a lot of money already? So that's the financial side of it. The basketball side is the interesting part. Because basically what in essence he's saying is, why would I lock in now without any assurances that we're doing everything it takes to be a championship caliber club? This is a guy who obviously had a devastating loss in 2019, being up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals and then losing 4 straight games to the Raptors, who ended up winning. They lost in the first round to the Heat in 2020. 2021, obviously, they won the championship, but they had some close calls along the way. And then 2022, they lose to the Celtics in the second round, albeit injury-laden. And then this last season, 2023, they lose to the Heat in the first round as a number 1 seed. So he's had, even that championship year has been sandwiched with a lot of kind of underachieving. If you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, you have to feel the desperation of, look, are we doing everything to make this team unequivocally a championship favorite, right? Not just a contender, but a favorite. And when you look at that Bucks roster and say, what did you guys do in the offseason? And the answer is, well, we added Robin Lopez and Malik Beasley. Like, that doesn't feel like we're pushing all of our chips to the middle of the table.
So is this a leverage play for Giannis?
Yes and no. Like, it's a leverage play in terms of a very...
In that, like, if you don't sign guys for me, I'm not sticking around.
If you don't continue to invest everything it takes to make this team championship caliber, I'm not sticking around. With regards to Damian Lillard, the idea of, hey, my superstar is upset and wants some help. He'll be fine. He's a pro. He's a nice guy. He's loved in the community. He treats everybody with respect. He wouldn't leave us. He's just a little mad. He's just, shaking the cage a little bit. They make these excuses. But the reality is, these guys are intense competitors. And when you talk about a Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Milwaukee Bucks,
yeah,
Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, these guys are all good players, right? Their career ends today. They walk around and you know what people call them, Charlotte?
What?
Champion. That guy's a champ. He won a championship. And they'll never have to buy a drink in Milwaukee, and everyone will love them. But for Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the top 75 players of all time, you know what they say if his career ended today?
What do they say?
You just won one? That's it? Yeah. Oh, go sit at the kids' table over there. You want to be mentioned with Magic and Steph and LeBron and Kobe and Shaq and Michael with one ring? Get out of here, bum. Yeah. That's his reality. He carries an incredible burden of excellence where winning one isn't enough and winning two isn't enough. And whatever you got, X plus one is always the next goal. And so if everyone around him gets the feeling, well, Giannis isn't going anywhere, we're going to keep winning 50 games, everyone's going to be happy, and all of us are going to go home after this is all done, patting ourselves on the back, Giannis has to be like, wait a second, like, I don't have that luxury because my career is finite, and it will be defined by how many of these I win. And so you say this to tell the organization unequivocally, don't rest on your laurels or take it for granted that I'll always be here.
Right, because he's doing what Dame didn't do, which was like put his foot down and do it publicly so that they can't keep saying, well, but Dame's loyal, he's nice. Okay. So do you think the Bucks are going to listen? Like, how regularly also are these conversations happening? Like checking in, being like, Giannis, you good? And if not, is this the only way to make that really clear? Yeah,
well, I mean, when you have a superstar, you're checking in regularly, whether it's the coach or the general manager or even the owner.
Right.
If you're not hearing from at least one of those people once a week, then there's a big issue there. But in terms of what can they actually do, and this is the interesting part, not a whole lot. The Bucks traded a lot of picks to get Drew Holiday in there, right? So they don't have a lot of picks. They don't have, they're hopelessly over the tax. So they don't have a lot of breathing room in that regard. All they have really available to them is the minimum, which is what they signed Malik Beasley and what they signed Robin Lopez, who's minimum deals. And when you talk about tradable assets, Chris Middleton is older, Drew Holiday is older, Brook Lopez is older. So it's like, those aren't exactly young prospects that get people out of their chairs. It's not, by way of example, Miami, a team that people say, oh, they don't have a lot of great prospects. Milwaukee doesn't have a Tyler Hero that they can say, this guy is going places. So without tradable assets like picks or young players, without salary cap flexibility, there really isn't a lot. And that's what the collective bargaining agreement was designed to do, is like, you want to spend that much money? All right, but like, you better be in love with your team. And so there's a part of this where I'm like, unless the Bucks just don't have any bumps in the road, inevitably, I think this thing is going to go to a place where they're going to have to start seriously considering trading Giannis before his contract is out. Not saying this year or this month or this offseason or whatever, but at some point when it becomes apparent we're not getting better, our guys are getting older around Giannis, and we don't have the wherewithal to add meaningful supporting talent, then the logical thing is to explore trading him and saying, you know what, got to know when to hold him and when to fold him.
Where would you want to see him go? Hello?
601 Biscayne Boulevard, baby. Let's get Dame. Let's get Giannis. Let's get Embiid. Let's get them all down here. It's going to be a ball. That's my answer for all of these. That's what I love. My answer for all these. And I'm not even a Heat fan. I don't give a shit. But I like the idea that, I could just cross the street. I'll see Giannis and Embiid and all the Dame, all these guys all the time. That's right. Our studio's across the street. That's all I care about. Travel time. Oddball.